Hi, in this lesson we're going to be talking about basic page setup for your workbook in Excel. So we're going to be covering some sections that kind of overlap, such as the page breaks and the printing, but I'm going to kind of try and keep things separated just for the sake of making it easier to follow. Okay, so even though it looks like, the sheet just runs on and on for your workbook here, how you could just scroll forever, it is going to be separated out into pages when you go to print it. So you need to make sure you know how to set up these pages properly for printing purposes. So there's some margin setups if you go to the page layout tab here. Now these are similar to what you'll find in Microsoft Word if you're used to using that. You have some default selections for normal, wide, and narrow, and you can see how big each margin is for the top, bottom, left, and right. And then the header and footer margin is how tall that's going to be if you're using headers or footers, which you might not be. And then if you want to choose a custom margin, you could do that as well. And now when you're here, you could either scroll up and down or type in a number manually to adjust your header. Just make sure you don't go too small, because if you're going to print it and your data is all the way over at the very edge of the page, your printer might not print it, so it might get cut off. So keep that in mind. So you could change everything here, and then you could also center horizontally and vertically on the page if you want to do that. And at any time you could do the print preview from here as well, which we'll get into the printing options. Then if you go to the page tab here, you could change the orientation, portrait, and landscape, which you could also do from here. And you could set your scaling. Default is 100%. You could shrink it down, or you could make it fit to a page, one page by one page, or you could change this 2 pages by 2 pages, and so on. Just keep in mind, if you do the fit to option, and you have a lot of stuff and you try and make it fit on one page, it's going to be really small and hard to read if you print it out. So you'll be able to see this with the print preview as well. And then you have your paper size, letters default. You could pick some of this, tabloids 11 by 17, legals 8.5 by 14, and so on. And the print quality for printing out Excel worksheets, DPI is really not going to be an issue unless you have like photographs in there, which you're probably not going to have. Okay, and then we saw orientation. You can get to it from here as well. So tall and wide, depending how your data is formatted. So if you have a lot of stuff going this way, you probably want to set it to landscape. If you're mostly up and down, leave it on portrait. And then you have your size options here as well with some other choices. And then you go to more paper sizes. It'll take you back to here. Or you can pick some of the same options. Print area, we're going to get into that in the printing video. Same with page breaks. Background. So I don't know how often you use this, but you could add a background. So if you have an image on your computer, or you could add one. Look for something like clouds, just for an example here. See if we can find something that's a little light. Like so. Something you're probably not going to use either, especially when you're printing, because that's going to use a lot of ink. Print tiles. That'll take you to the sheet tab where you can set the print area and print tiles, which we're going to go over in the printing lesson, and also this stuff too. And you can set your page order too for when it does print, if you wanted to go down then over, or over then down. So if your data spans multiple sheets, another thing to keep in mind is it's going to get, cut off and placed on the next sheet, so it gets kind of messy when printing big Excel files. And then if you click on the expansion arrow here for page setup, it'll take you to the same spot. So for page setup, your 2 biggest things are setting your margins, depending on how much stuff you have on the page to make it fit better. And then you definitely want to look at the orientation based on if you have your data go along this way or go down this way. And then obviously your page size to make sure it fits your printer. So if you have a printer that supports, 11 by 17, then obviously you could fit more stuff on a page. Okay, in the next upcoming lessons, we're going to be talking about topics such as page breaks, and then finally how to print your Excel workbook. Hi, in this lesson we're going to be talking about page breaks. So these are important when you're printing. If you don't plan on printing, they're not as important, because the page is just going to kind of run on as you go along here, and you're not even going to notice that it's on a new page. So if we look at this sheet, for example, here, everything looks like it's on one page, But if you go to the View menu and then click on Page Break Preview, you'll see that it's actually 2 pages designated by this blue line here. So when we go to print, it's going to print this on 2 pages. It's not going to print on 1 page unless you do some manipulation like we saw in the page setup video to kind of shrink things down to fit on a page. And then, like I said, even if you do that, you might end up with everything being so small that it's hard to read. And then also while you're here, you could change your page breaks. Let's say we want this not to be on that page. We could go like this and set our page break right there. But if we go like this, you can see it's not going to print because it's not going to fit on the page. This is kind of left in limbo here. So we got to stretch that out. And then we could also stretch it out farther too if we want to increase our page too. Now if we go back to normal, many times after you go to page break preview, you come back to your normal view, you'll see this dotted line here, and that's telling you that's the page break. And if we go over to another one, let's say this one here, you can see there's no dotted line. We go to page break preview, we could see the page break is after package letter. And now we come back here, we can see the page break line, dotted line. Then you can see here's the next line. I'm not sure why that happens, but I'm assuming it's just to help you out when you go back to normal view so you have an idea where your page break was from the page break preview. So you can see here, this is not going to fit on 1 page as well. It's going to be 2 pages. And let's extend it out over here. Let's just call this new data. And let's just copy this just to make it easy here. Now if we go to page break preview, you can see we have page 1, page 2, and this is technically page 3. We could stretch this out, and now everything's over here. So you can see how it's going to print when you do this. And now let's go back, and let's just put some more stuff at the bottom here. Put this a few times just to get some page breaks in here. Now we go to page break preview. We can see we have this, and since we drag this up here, this is kind of in limbo, so we just need to drag this down. And now we have our page break here. Page 1, page 2, page 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now if you recall, we go to the Page Layout tab, and then to Print Tiles, you can see it's going down, and then the next one down, the next one down. So if we change this to over and down, it should go this way once we click OK. So now we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's one way to change how your data is going to print if you want it to go this way and then this way, or if you want it to go down and then the next column and next column. So it's pretty much print by row across or print by column down when you go to print tiles. So the default is down then over. Okay, so that's how the page break preview works, which you can see from the View tab. Now we go back to normal, and you can see we have some page breaks across the bottom too as well. But like I said, if you're just going to be using Excel and never printing it, it's not really a big deal to really be too concerned where your page breaks are. But if you're going to be printing, then you definitely need to know where your page breaks are, because it's going to affect how your print job comes out of your printer. Hi, in this lesson, we're going to be talking about printing your worksheets in Excel. So let's say you have your data in place and you want to print out some copies to give to other people. You could easily do so. So what you want to do is go to the File menu and then go to the Print option. And you'll see a print preview, which if you hold down Control or probably Command for a Mac, you could scroll with your mouse wheel to kind of zoom in to see it a little better. Now you'll see here, this is 2 pages. So this cuts off on due date, and then the rest of it's going on the next page. So if we go back here, cut off on due date, and that's where our page break was, if you remember that. So then this section will be on the next page. So if we go back to View Page Break, you can see that matches what we're going to print. And then you can see too, this got cut off still, so we never put this back. So let's drag this back here. So that way it shows up in our print job. So let's go back to print. And now you can see that total amount due line is back, like so. And when you're here, you could also click on Page Setup to get back to the same options that we've looked at. So let's say you want to fit this on 1 page by 1 page, so 1 page tall, 1 page wide. Click OK. You'll see it puts it all on 1 page. It just makes everything smaller to make it fit. And then of course you could change your margins. Let's say we make this, let's go 0.2, smaller than I like to go. And that'll make it fit a little bit better on the page there. And then of course you could change it to landscape, and that makes it fit even better. So you can see back and forth here how it looks, tall and wide. So that might be an option for you as well. And down here you have some scaling options. No scaling, print sheets at their actual size, fit the sheet on 1 page, which is what we just did. Fit all columns on 1 page, which will shrink it so that it's 1 page wide. It's not going to fit the rows on 1 page, but you do have an option to fit all rows on 1 page. And then if you click on custom scaling options, you'll go back to here where we just were. Then you have some collation options if your printer supports that, to collate your pages accordingly. And then when you're here, if you have more than 1 page, so let's go back to no scaling and back to portrait. So now we're 2 pages here. So if we wanted to print just page 1, we could just put page 1 and print that. Or let's say we had 20 pages, we could do 1 to 10 and just print the first 10 like that. And then you could also change your paper size from here as well. So let's say we were going to do it on 11 by 17. You can see it changes the preview, and now you can see for 11 by 17, since it's 11 inches wide instead of 8.5 inches wide, it actually all fits. So the preview will match up to what you change it to. Here's legal, which is 8.5 by 14, but it's still on 2 pages. And then back to default letter, which is 8.5 by 11, so it's not going to fit unless we shrink it down. Okay, so then another option here, we have print active sheets. So only the active sheet that we're on. So let's go back here. So this is the sheet that we're on, so that's the one that's going to print. And then print the entire workbook. So now we have 9 pages because it's going to print all of our sheets. And then print selection, print only the current selection. So let's say, let's go back here, go back to normal view. Let's say we only want to print this right here. So rather than worrying about page breaks and cutting off pages and which page we're going to print, we simply just select the area we want to print, then go to print, and then change this to print selection. So now you see it's only going to print the selection that we selected from that range back on the previous screen. So that comes in very handy if you only want to print a certain section and not have to worry about lining up things so it prints the right number of pages or everything fits correctly on the page. You could just do that and take it from there. And then of course you have your printer drop-down selections here. This computer doesn't have any printers installed except for the default, Microsoft Print to PDF and OneNote. So you could choose your printer there, and then you can go to the printer properties, and this is going to vary depending on what printer you have installed. And then you could also make selections there for color, black and white, changing other options as well. And then up here you have how many copies you want to print. And let's say you're printing 5 pages and you pick 2 copies, that's going to be 10 pages total because it's going to print each page twice. And then once you have everything ready, just click on the print button and then it should start coming out of your printer. Okay, so for the next lesson, we're going to talk about the printing to PDF and also exporting options. So that way, if you don't have a printer or if you want to export your worksheet to a file, you could do so very easily using one of these methods. Hi, in this lesson we're going to be talking about how to print your worksheet or workbook to a PDF file and also how to export it to a PDF file. So kind of similar results, yet not quite the same, so I'll show you why in a second here. So first we're going to print to a PDF. So let's say we want to print our Gold Club here. Go to File and Print, just like you did for a regular print job. And then from your printer drop-down list, make sure it's set to Microsoft Print to PDF. So you could use this Microsoft Print to PDF printer for pretty much anything in Windows that you could print to. So you could create PDFs from photographs, from Word documents, and other items like that. Okay, so the same settings apply that we talked about in the printing video for the size, orientation, how many pages it's going to do. So we're just going to leave it at the 2 pages here. And we'll click on Print. So now it wants to know where you want to save it to, because it's saving it as a file. It's not actually printing it to your printer. It's printing it to an actual file. So we're going to save it to the desktop, and we'll call this Print to PDF. Now it says it's printing it. So now if we go to our desktop, here's our Print to PDF file, and if we open it, you can see here's our first page, and then here's our second page, because we chose to print it to 2 pages rather than 1. Okay, so now let's go back to Excel here. And this time we're going to do the Export to PDF option. So we'll go to File and Export. So you notice it says Create PDF/XPS. So an XPS document is similar to a PDF document, but PDFs are much more commonly used, so we're going to choose that option. So we're going to click on Create PDF. Okay, so now we have the type to save as a PDF or an XPS, so we'll leave it on PDF. So the main difference here is you have some options for standard, publishing and online printing, and minimum size for publishing online. So if this is something you want in a higher quality or you're going to send out for publishing, you would choose this option here, and it's going to make the file a little bit larger as well. For Excel spreadsheets, it probably doesn't matter because it's not like you're going to be sending them out for the, to the graphic designer to be, printed in high quality. Then you have some options here as well. As you want to print all certain pages, just the active sheet, if you want to include the document properties and structure tags, and if you want to make it PDF-A compliant. So you can see when you do an export, you have some of the same options that you had for printing. You don't get a print preview or anything like that. So we're going to do the active sheet in all pages. Click OK. And then we'll call this Export to PDF. And click on Publish instead of Print. Put this on the desktop with the other one. Okay, so now it automatically opened it in our PDF reader here. So let's open both of them side by side here. Okay, so here's our export to PDF, and here's our print to PDF. If you click between them, they're very similar. The export to PDF looks a little bit darker, but not much difference there. And so now, if we go look at each one, so here's our print to PDF. If we right-click on it, choose Properties, that'll tell us the size, so that's 429 kilobytes. If we do the same for our export, 113 kilobytes. So normally, like especially with Word documents, if you do an export to PDF, it'll be a larger file than the printed PDF, but in this particular case, it's the opposite, where the printed PDF is a larger file. But as you can see, there's not a lot of difference in the quality, so either method will work. You're probably better off using the print to PDF because then you have all your print options. So let's go back there again real quick. Like so, you have all these options where you have most of them in the export, but not all of them. And then you could also get your page set up very easily, and so on. Okay, so that was just a quick lesson on converting your spreadsheet to a PDF file in case you ever need to do so.